It all began in a small town. One spark, one outbreak. Within no time, the zombie virus spread across the entire world. Nowhere on Earth was safe anymore. In this ruined, collapsing world, one desperate family sets out on a dangerous journey for survival. But will they find a safe haven from the zombies? Or will they end up like everyone else, hunted, torn apart, and devoured? That's what we'll uncover in today's story. Brace yourself for the ultimate zombie apocalypse. Subscribe and survive the chaos with us. The film opens with Kelvin, who wakes up inside an old, decaying building. The night before, drunk and reckless, he had passed out there with his girlfriend, her family, and one of his friends. When he steps outside to look for her, his heart freezes. Blood is splattered everywhere. He takes a few hesitant steps forward, and then he sees her, his girlfriend, but she doesn't look human anymore. Her face is twisted, monstrous, and she's feasting on his friend's body. The moment her eyes lock onto Kelvin, she lunges at him with terrifying hunger. Panicked, Kelvin bolts, running as fast as he can, but just as he bursts onto the road, bam! He's hit, thrown down in a brutal accident. The world fades to black. When Kelvin wakes again, he's lying in a hospital bed. By his side are his mom, Madison, his sister, Des, and his stepfather, Travis. They had all come to see him, but as soon as they leave, Kelvin sneaks out, stealing a few clothes before slipping into the night. His next stop is Michael, the one who gave him the drugs that turned Emily, his girlfriend, into a flesh-eating monster. Kelvin demands answers. What was in that drug? What had caused her to lose control and start biting people? But Michael has other plans. Luring Kelvin under an abandoned bridge, he secretly plots to kill him, anything to avoid being dragged into a police investigation. Kelvin, however, notices the gun hidden near Michael. Terrified, cornered, he reacts in self-defense and accidentally shoots Michael dead. Shaken, trembling, Kelvin immediately calls his parents, begging them to come to him. Meanwhile, the world outside is spiraling into chaos. Across the internet, videos are going viral. People turning, attacking, biting each other like rabid animals. Police fire bullet after bullet, but nothing works. The infected don't fall. The bullets do nothing. That's when it becomes clear. This wasn't just some side effect of drugs. This was a zombie virus, spreading slowly, quietly, infecting more and more people. When Travis and Madison rush to the scene at Kelvin's call, they expect to find Michael's lifeless body, but it's gone, vanished. The sight rattles them. Maybe, they think, Kelvin's drug addiction has clouded his mind. Maybe he only imagined killing Michael. They begin leading him away, but then it happens. From the road ahead, Michael appears, staggering toward them. Something about him is horribly wrong. His face is twisted, his movements jerky, unnatural. Madison and Travis step out of the car to check on him, cautious but concerned. And in an instant, Michael snaps. No longer human, fully transformed into a zombie, he lunges at them with animalistic hunger, teeth gnashing, trying to sink into their flesh. They barely manage to escape his clutches. Kelvin, panicked and desperate, slams the car into Michael again and again, determined to protect his parents. The impact should have killed him, should have ended it, but the nightmare only deepens. Even with his bones shattered, his body mangled, Michael refuses to stay down. Broken limbs dragging, blood pouring, he still rises, stumbling forward, jaws snapping, trying to attack them again. It's at that horrifying moment the three of them finally realize the truth. This is no ordinary sickness. It's a terrifying zombie virus, spreading silently, relentlessly, with no cure in sight. Terrified by what they've just witnessed, the family makes a swift decision. They must leave the city immediately. Madison calls her daughter Des, only to discover that she's with her boyfriend. When the three finally arrive at Des's location, a chilling sight awaits them. Jason, Des's boyfriend, is gravely ill. Travis notices the unmistakable mark. He's been bitten by a zombie, which means only one thing. Soon, Jason will turn. Sensing the looming danger, they waste no time. Grabbing Des, they rush back home, hearts pounding, dread closing in. Back in their neighborhood, panic has already taken over. Families all around are hastily packing, abandoning their homes, desperate to escape the spreading terror. Travis quickly scrubs Michael's blood off the car, trying to erase the evidence of what had just happened. Then he turns to Madison, his face grave. He tells her he must go fetch his ex-wife and son. If he doesn't return in time, Madison must take both children and leave the city without him. He promises they'll reunite beyond the city's edge. By now, the virus is tearing through the city at an alarming speed. Chaos floods the streets. Traffic is jammed for miles, horns blaring, engines roaring as terrified people fight to flee. Overhead, army planes thunder past, skimming low over the city. Fear grips every corner. People are screaming, shoving, trying desperately to escape. But Travis doesn't give up. Taking a hidden shortcut, he pushes through the madness and finally reaches his family. Unaware of the horror closing in, a group of people were still protesting against the police. In the middle of the chaos, Travis finally spotted his ex-wife, Clara, and his son, Chris. But before they could escape, gunfire cracked through the air. The police shot an infected woman, dropping her to the ground. To the crowd, it looked like cold-blooded murder. Fury erupted instantly. The mob exploded into riots, people screaming, smashing windows, overturning cars, and looting shops. The streets turned into a war zone. Travis was trapped, with no way out. Desperate, he turned to Daniel, the owner of a nearby barber shop, begging for help. Together, they rushed inside, locking the door behind them. By nightfall, the nightmare outside had only escalated. Looters swarmed the streets, breaking into stores, dragging out anything they could carry. And for the shops they couldn't breach, they set them ablaze, flames devouring everything in their path. The terror was unbearable. Realizing they couldn't hide forever, Travis, Clara, Chris, and Daniel made a choice. For survival, they had to escape, before the fire and the infected consumed them all. But the moment Daniel opened the shop door, chaos struck. A mob stormed inside, intent on looting everything in sight. Luckily, no one tried to hurt them. The rioters were too focused on tearing the place apart. Seizing the chance, Travis and the others slipped outside, but what they saw froze their blood. Among the looters, many had already turned, savagely ripping into each other, biting, tearing flesh like wild animals. Wasting no time, Travis hurried his family away. Daniel followed close behind with his wife and daughter, clinging to him in terror. In the midst of the turmoil, disaster struck. A heavy boat, toppled in the chaos, crashed down on Daniel's wife's foot, trapping her. Everyone rushed in, pulling together with all their strength to free her. At last, they broke her loose. Without looking back, they all piled into Travis's car and sped away. As they drove through the city, the nightmare unfolded on every street. Riots raged, flames climbed high, and with every passing minute, more people turned into the infected. The army fought back with relentless gunfire, but nothing seemed enough to contain the spreading horror. Meanwhile, Kelvin and his family were still waiting anxiously for Travis to return. Suddenly, a loud, violent knock echoed on the door. The sound jolted them, their hearts pounding, fear gripping tighter with every second. With trembling hands, Kelvin pulled the curtain aside. His eyes widened. A dog from the neighbor's house stood there, drenched in blood, trembling in terror. At first, it looked like the animal was wounded, but on closer inspection, Kelvin realized the blood wasn't its own. Suddenly, the dog bolted to the window, barking wildly, scratching at the glass. Kelvin followed its gaze and froze. Their neighbor had turned. He was now a zombie, lurching straight toward their house. Acting quickly, Kelvin and his family leapt over the wall, heading for the neighbor's home. It belonged to a military officer who no longer lived there, but they knew he had left behind a shotgun. Peering through a window, Dez's face went pale. The zombie neighbor had broken into their house and was tearing into the dog. At that very moment, Travis returned. Bursting inside, he found the horrifying scene. The neighbor, now fully turned, gnawing at the family's dog. The creature turned on him instantly, attacking with a feral hunger. The sounds of the struggle carried outside, and Kelvin, Dez, and Madison rushed back with the shotgun. Madison raised the weapon, hands shaking, but she couldn't bring herself to pull the trigger. That's when Daniel grabbed the gun from her and fired, blasting the zombie to the ground. By the next morning, the horror hadn't stopped. Before leaving, Madison glanced across the street. Her neighbor Rachel, once warm and familiar, now staggered lifelessly. Infected, there was no time left. Both families packed into 2 cars, engines roaring, and sped away, driving out of the cursed city in search of survival. But then Madison spotted something that froze her blood. Her neighbor Rachel's husband had come to see her, unaware that Rachel was now a zombie. Madison sprinted toward him, desperate to stop him, but it was already too late. He reached his wife, and in the very next moment, gunfire cracked. A soldier had shot them down. The military had arrived to contain the outbreak. For a moment, people felt relief. Maybe now, with the army here, they wouldn't need to flee. Soldiers went door to door, checking every home for signs of infection. But Daniel wasn't convinced. He knew too well how the military operated, and he still wanted to escape. Within hours, thousands of soldiers had flooded the city. The announcement came quickly. A 6-kilometer zone had been fenced off, completely sealed. No one was allowed to leave. Days passed. One afternoon, Chris sat on the roof, recording a video. The army insisted that beyond the safe zone, no living soul remained. The city, they claimed, was utterly destroyed. But then Chris saw it. From outside the barrier, flashes of light, flickering like a signal. Someone out there was alive and calling for help. Chris rushed to Madison and showed her the video. His camera had captured it clearly. Signals from beyond the safe zone. Survivors were still out there. Madison's suspicion of the military deepened. The next morning, she climbed to the roof herself, flashlight in hand. And just as Chris said, the signals flickered back. People were alive outside. That could only mean one thing. The army was hiding the truth. Determined to uncover it, Madison made a reckless decision. She slipped past the patrols, cut through the fence, and escaped the so-called safe zone. What she found outside was a nightmare. The streets were desolate, bodies scattered everywhere, but something was wrong. Many of the corpses bore no bite marks. They weren't killed by zombies, they were shot. The army had executed innocent civilians. As the horror sank in, headlights cut through the darkness. Military vehicles rolled toward her. Madison dove under a truck, holding her breath as soldiers marched dangerously close. When Madison returned home, she told Daniel everything. The military couldn't be trusted. They were hiding too much from the public. That very evening, chaos struck again. Because of the injury to Daniel's wife's foot from the falling board, soldiers were forcibly taking her to the military hospital and wouldn't allow Daniel to accompany her. Kelvin's name was on the list as well. Seeing this, Des urged her brother to escape immediately, but soldiers grabbed him, forcing him along. At that moment, Travis's ex-wife, Clara, a nurse, intervened. She insisted that Kelvin was only struggling with addiction and wasn't infected. The military doctor, however, refused to take the risk and insisted on testing him anyway. Clara wanted to go with Daniel's wife and Kelvin to keep an eye on them. Because she was a nurse, the military allowed her to accompany them. From a distance, Madison watched. Doubt gnawed at her. Had Clara been the one to inform the army about her son? Fear consumed her. She confronted Travis, worried that Kelvin might be in real danger. Meanwhile, desperate and furious, Travis climbed to the roof. There, he saw the survivors outside the safe zone, those who had somehow made it. Gunfire erupted and Travis realized the horrifying truth. The army was killing them too. In that moment, Travis understood clearly. The military could not be trusted. Meanwhile, in the military hospital, Clara had been helping the sick for several days. But after that fateful day, she never saw Daniel's wife or Kelvin again. Determined to save his wife, Daniel captured a soldier. He showed Madison, explaining that by torturing him, they could find out what the army planned to do with his wife and Kelvin. Under Daniel's pressure, the soldier finally spoke. The army had tried to test everyone suspected of being infected to avoid taking extreme measures unnecessarily. But now, the zombie population outside had grown uncontrollably. Even the army could no longer contain it. They had taken Daniel's wife, Kelvin, and many others to a massive stadium outside the city, and the plan was horrifying. At 9 o'clock the next morning, bombs would be dropped on the city, killing them all, along with anyone else inside. After that, the army would leave, abandoning the city completely. Hearing all of this, they realized there was only one choice. They had to get Kelvin and Daniel's wife out of the stadium before morning, and then escape the city entirely. Outside the stadium, thousands of zombies had gathered. Even the army soldiers could no longer hold them back. Using the chaos of the attack to their advantage, they made their way to the stadium's underground parking, determined to rescue Kelvin and Daniel's wife. There, Daniel discovered that the soldier he had captured had been released by Travis. Travis claimed they no longer needed him. Daniel was furious. This soldier could still put them all in grave danger. Leaving Chris and Des behind for safety, the rest of them ventured deeper into the base. Meanwhile, inside a cell, Kelvin had befriended Victor, a powerful businessman. Victor promised that if Kelvin helped him escape, he could secure a safe place for his entire family. Outside, the situation grew even worse. Thousands of zombies were breaking through the fences, pouring into the stadium. Army soldiers abandoned the doctors, fleeing to helicopters to save themselves. Many doctors were trapped inside, including Clara. Meanwhile, Kelvin had somehow managed to improvise a way to get Victor, the businessman, out of the cell with him. Other prisoners nearby were calling for help, but Victor stopped Kelvin, insisting they needed to leave as quickly as possible. Not long after they escaped, the rest of the group arrived, searching for Kelvin. When they asked the others, they learned that he had already left with Victor. Before moving on, Travis made sure to unlock the remaining cells, giving the others a chance to survive. Meanwhile, Kelvin and Victor found themselves trapped in a hall, their only way out secured with a security lock. Zombies were closing in fast, their growls echoing through the corridors. Victor tried to hold them back with his gun, but his ammunition was dangerously low. Kelvin frantically worked on the security door, desperate to open it, and then he spotted Travis and the others approaching from the other side. But there was a problem. They couldn't open the door either without the security clearance. Just when it seemed like they had no chance of surviving, Clara arrived at the perfect moment. Using her ID card, she opened the security door, and Kelvin and Victor were saved. When Daniel asked about his wife, Clara's face fell. Tearfully, she revealed the truth. She had been infected, and the army had killed her. Determined to escape, the group headed to the underground parking where their cars were waiting. But suddenly, the very army soldier Daniel had tortured appeared, seeking revenge. In a horrifying instant, he shot Daniel's daughter, Afia. Travis reacted immediately, guilt and fury driving him. He attacked the soldier relentlessly, finally killing him. Miraculously, the bullet had only grazed Afia's shoulder. She survived. With no time to waste, they all left with Victor. As they drove, they watched in horror. Their entire city lay in ruins, completely destroyed. After a tense journey, they finally arrived at Victor's private flat. From here, they would escape by his private boat, heading out into the open sea. At last, in the water, they would be safe. No zombies could reach them here. If you love this thrilling ride through chaos and survival, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We bring you more heart-pounding stories from the edge of danger.